Mindset Game podcast, and I'm your host, James Roberts. Before we get started with this week's show, first off, let me take this opportunity to welcome back the regular listeners. And if this is your first time listening to the show, I hope you enjoy this episode and decide to subscribe to the show. And we've got one a little bit different today. I've got Dylan Cummings on the show. Dylan is a writer for the IWBF, and also he's a writer for Raw Coaching. So welcome onto the show, Dylan.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Dylan, before we delve into today's episode, can you talk us a little bit through your journey, obviously from you've started out as a player in wheelchair basketball and still to this day play. How did kind of the other things from the journalistic perspective come about?
Well, I mean, do you want me to start right from the very beginning of my career?
You can do, yeah.
So basically what it was is I grew up on a little island called the Isle of Islay in the west coast of Scotland. And then at the end of 2012, my mum decided to move from there. And on Islay, I really had no access to sport. Really had no access to... I was pretty much the only disabled child in mainstream school there because it was such a small island of 3,000 people, only about 250 kids at the school. And then in January 2013, I found Carlisle Panthers wheelchair basketball on the internet and started playing for them. And then I wasn't very good to start off with, but then I just worked at it and got better and started proving people wrong, got stronger, went to the scheduled in gym sessions, done shooting sessions, got a lot better at shooting. And then because the team manager for Carlisle suggested that I try out for the Scotland under-19s national team because of my Scottish heritage. So in 2014 I went to trial out for them, and I got reserve status, which I was gutted about at first, but then, it's a good learning curve. It gives you more motivation to push harder. And then I got called up in 2014, and then I've made the squads in 2015, 2016, and this year. And actually, I'm going off to the school games tomorrow at Loughborough University, playing in my final competition for the under-19s. And then hopefully I will progress onto the under-23s in the near future.
But Dylan, how come you didn't play for one of the Scottish teams from a club perspective? Is it because they didn't at the time have that social media presence, perhaps?
The reason why I didn't play for a Scottish club is because I was only introduced to wheelchair basketball when I moved to England, and Carlisle was just obviously I lived near Carlisle, so Carlisle was the closest club. And the closest club to me, well, there's only two real league clubs that play in the BWB league at the minute. It's St Mirren Warriors and Lothian Phoenix. And I just played for Carlisle because it was the closest club and saved a lot of travelling. Although I didn't mind doing the long distance travelling to Scotland every month for Scotland training. But I've got a lot of good friends that play in the Lothian club and in the St Mirren club, and even though I might not play for the same club team, I've still managed to forge good friendships with those players.
And obviously it's kind of, you're in the transition period between your first year and second year at university at Worcester.
Yeah. Has
basketball kind of laid the path for you to obviously go to that institution?
Yes, I think I went, my first instance at Worcester was in 2015, playing in the junior championships, and I loved playing at the uni, and then it was pretty much my only choice for university. I did have a look at other universities, but Worcester was the only one that really caught my eye, and yes, basketball is the reason why I went to that university.
But some might say, should you not look at maybe the prowess of the university based on its academics?
Yes, people did advise me on that, and in some ways, now that the programme has moved, I do kind of wish I would have thought about it more. But at the same time, yeah, I made what I thought was the right decision at the time, and I don't regret the decision. Well, yeah, I'd say overall I don't regret the decision. And, there's still a fair few amount of players at Worcester University, and the basketball program will still continue to be there.
But then you're one of probably, I'd say, well, off the top of my head, maybe a dozen players, maybe, or would you say that it was more than that? That kind of made that same decision to go there because the British program was there.
Yes, I am one of many players that chose to go there. Now, obviously, the ones that are on the GB program have got transferred, but there are still a fair few amount of good players, and I think, if you're passionate about basketball and you love basketball, yes, some people would have chosen to go to unis because of the academic, reputation of the unis. But, I'd say a lot of players decided to go to Worcester because the basketball program was there.
And kind of, we kind of go, you talk about there's a lot of potential and good caliber players.
Yeah.
We talk about obviously where you are in the league. Why do you think Worcester's still languishing? Well, try not to be too harsh with this question now. In the third division, whereas they've got probably more, I'd say, resources with the players' depth that they have over other clubs.
I'd say the reason why Worcester Wolves are still in the third division is because, a lot of players might choose to come to Worcester, but a lot of those players are like, I don't know how, a lot of those are like top quality players. And because obviously the GB women have their own Coyotes team, so a lot of them just want to focus on that, and sometimes are too, like, obviously their program, they train every single day, and they might not want to commit to Worcester Wolves games as well as Coyotes games. And obviously we've got to think of the geographical location, the West Midlands. When you look at the West Midlands, there are so many quality teams available within that area. Like, for example, obviously that goes to show with the West Midlands becoming junior champions for the past 3 years in a row. I mean, when you look at Coventry, you look at T-Cat Warriors, and what are the other ones? Yeah, you got Wolverhampton there as well. I mean, a lot of the high-end players, and Warwickshire as well, a lot of the high-end players choose to go to clubs in Prem and Div 1 like Coventry, T-Cat and Warwickshire, rather than play in Div 3 for Worcester Wolves. So I don't know. It's just the way it goes. But I do think that if players at Worcester chose to go to Worcester Wolves, it would have been a lot easier for them to get to, because we train on campus, so it's literally a 2-minute push around the corner for me. So it's just a lot more convenient to get to. And I'd say right now I'm only capable of playing Div 3 anyway, so I'd prefer to play Div 3 than play high end, top division basketball. But some other players think differently and would rather go to clubs with perhaps a more well-known reputation, shall I say.
But Dylan, obviously you are content at playing in Division 3.
Yeah.
However, you've obviously done the heights of representing your country. Do you not feel or have the aspirations to play at a higher division, or is that just me having that assumption?
I don't. Over the past few years, I've sort of, I don't know how to say this actually. I've realised my strong point is actually off court more than on court. Like, for example, writing for IWBF, I've got more of a chance of progressing further in wheelchair basketball off court rather than on court, such as writing for IWBF. Now, obviously, if the opportunity presented itself, I would happily play in a higher division. But right now, I feel comfortable playing in Division 3. I feel that that's where I'm at right now in regards to playing on court. And I feel perfectly happy and content playing Division 3. And it's a lot more convenient for me because, unfortunately, I'm not medically able to drive. So, pushing 2 minutes around the corner to Worcester Wolves is a lot easier for me. So.
And in terms of away games, as a club, do you have like team transportation? Obviously, being a university, well, I won't say university team, but associated with the university.
Unfortunately, we don't have a team minibus. We tend to just car share, and one of our players has like a big sort of like van mobility car, so they tend to take most of the sports chairs, and we usually just car share. Yeah.
But do you think? Well, this is probably an awkward question again. The pro able-bodied club could do a little bit more to obviously support what is it's in all cases its namesake.
Yes, I do think the BBL club could do a lot more to support the wheelchair club. Unfortunately, we have struggled to on both ends. We've struggled a bit with communication, but then at Christmas, Worcester Wolves BBL club brought in a new coach from Australia. He's called Dale, and he helped out the university team with regards to transportation for the university champs, and he took all the sports chairs in his minibus. So he seems to be on board with the wheelchair program. Next year, I've offered to help out in potential journalistic things in regards to writing for the BBL club. So hopefully next year we'll have a stronger relationship with the BBL team, and they'll be able to support us a little bit more.
It sounds like you're being quite clever as well there in terms of it's getting your foot in the door as well.
Yeah.
So I commend you on that.
Yeah. Would you like me to talk about how I got involved with IWBF?
Yeah, that'd be great to hear, Dylan.
Okay, so basically what it was is back in, I think it was February or March, Tina Gordon posted on the Scotland Squad's Facebook page saying that I should apply to volunteer to write and do social media stuff for the International Paralympic Committee. And I was paired together with Vanessa Erskine from USA to work together as a team to promote wheelchair basketball. But unfortunately, Vanessa had to pull out of the project because she had commitments abroad playing for a team in Germany. But luckily, through the IPC conference call that we had, I was introduced to Stephanie Gagne, who is the communications and marketing person for IWBF. And we sort of lost touch with the IPC, but she said the IWBF are looking for writers. So basically what it is she sends me a story that she needs written up on, and then I basically just research the story and write it up and get her to check it over, and if she thinks it's okay, it gets published on the IWBF website. And then I've expressed to her that I like interviewing players. I find it really interesting. So through that, she's been able to put me into contact with players such as Brad Ness, Steve Serio, Desi Miller, Bo Hedges, and I'm going to be interviewing Aaron Young next week in regards to Canada winning the Canada women winning the America's Cup. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, she's helped me out a lot, and hopefully in the future, when I get more experience working for them, I can progress further, and hopefully instead of just being a voluntary thing, I could get it could progress to being a paid job, and then hopefully I'll be able to go to these major tournaments on behalf of IWBF and report on these tournaments in person and be able to experience these amazing events hopefully in the future.
And Dylan, as we are recording this, what is it today? Obviously, well, from the perspective of the men's side of the draw, obviously you got the US and the Canadians playing in the Copa America final tonight.
Yes.
What do you think, prediction-wise, how do you think it will? Which way do you think the result may go? Obviously, with Patrick Anderson coming out of retirement.
That's a real tough one. I think obviously because the USA, their squad hasn't changed much from Rio. I can't remember the exact amount, but I think they've got 8 players on their squad from Rio, with a few new additions. And then obviously Canada they've lost. Well, I think a couple of players have taken a break. Two of them have definitely retired. Well, no, one of them's definitely retired, and one of them's moved on to other sports. And obviously Patrick Anderson has come back, and they've got a few of the new junior players filling in the spots of the seniors that aren't present at the event. So, I mean, I think Patrick will help Canada improve a lot since Rio. But I do think the USA still have their core players available. So I think the US will come out on top, although I'm not entirely sure. You never know with Patrick Anderson on the court.
Well, it's a difficult one, obviously, with it being a team game. And I was, we'll say fortunate enough to catch a game from the earlier part of the tournament when the US was playing Brazil. And I think it was like the end of the fourth quarter, and I kind of seen the score. And I'm thinking, well, it's awfully close. But obviously, we talked off air about it. You were saying when you spoke to Steve Serial and Desi Miller, they were, I won't say worried, but obviously they looking over their shoulders at the Brazilians obviously coming up.
Yeah.
But obviously now, with it being your swan song within terms of the school games, what are kind of your aspirations from, say, that perspective and that tournament this weekend?
This weekend, in regards to, I'd say Scotland have the strongest squad, the strongest under-19 squad they've ever had this year. I think because of the I think you can play nationals 1 year older than you have to be a certain age to play school games compared to nationals. So the teams are a lot different for school games. Central have lost quite a lot of their players. The defending champion Central have lost a lot of their players. South are significantly weaker. I think the only one that's still as strong as they were last year are North. And then I think at the Nationals, we finished top out of the home nations. So we finished a place above Wales and 2 places above Northern Ireland. So we are the strongest home nation going into it. So I think this year, hopefully we'll progress into either the bronze medal game and potentially the final if we give it at all. I think we've got very, very strong players in regards to players like Josh Manson, the Beattie brothers, David and James, and Big Ben Leach. We can play quite a strong lineup. This tournament looks really hopeful for the Scotland squad, and hopefully we'll get chances of getting a medal. But just one thing I want to add is that Scotland are progressing very well as a team unit. Although a lot of the strong players within the Scotland squad, with the likes of Josh and the Beattie brothers, some of them do have to venture into England to gain different club experiences. Like, for example, Josh Manson is going to travel to Tees Valley next season, and the Beattie brothers are at Carlisle. So I think even though the Scotland squad is as strong as it's ever been, I think if the Scottish clubs got stronger, it would provide more and a better pathway for the Scottish athletes.
But in a little bit a difficult one, because obviously with it being, how would I put this now, very much, say, Edinburgh based, and say, well, originally St Mirren was Glasgow, so it's very much east and west.
Yeah.
It's very difficult in terms of, say, as you say, player development, because Scotland is not a small country.
Yeah. I mean, like, for example, Ben is from Perth, which is way up north. So he has to travel from Perth to Edinburgh, which is quite a long way. But I think if they establish, I mean, they have established links in, say, Aberdeen and Dundee, but it's just a case of over time they will eventually get stronger. And I mean, the Scotland Junior programme has already proved within 3 years how strong it can become. So I just think with time it'll just become stronger.
But would you not say that? You probably from a journalistic point of view now.
Yeah,
you've obviously seen that. With North Wales, we have our own. How would you put it? Not really regionalised league, but as in within the clubs that fall under the BWB club that is North Wales Knights. Would you say Scotland maybe should follow that model to be able to maybe develop their players in a unique way that they're able to get more game time, more exposure, and it's maybe not as a competitive environment that, say, the likes of the third division and up within BWB kind of entails?
Yeah, well, I think Scotland have followed that model. I think they have something called the Scottish. They do have a Scottish league where Lothian, St Mirren, Grampian Flyers from Aberdeen, and Dundee Dragons all compete. I think it's 3 weekends a year, and I think we finished top this. I think either Dundee or Lothian finished top this year. So they are taking steps to improve that model.
And do you think it's kind of a benefit or a hindrance in a way that obviously the players have to go venture into England to probably better themselves? I
mean, obviously, I mean, if they're willing to travel and they're like, I know, like, I know the setups around Carlisle, and I've been around Tees Valley as well. I mean, it will benefit Josh and the Leakey brothers to go there and gain different experiences from different coaches, and it will benefit them. Obviously, it's a lot for them to travel to England, but I think overall it will definitely benefit them. Yes.
And if we kind of bring in to the next point now, obviously, which the travel. Have you found it easier now that you are based in Worcester playing wise? A little bit easier for getting to games from a away perspective now than it was at Carlisle?
I don't know. Like I'd say because Worcester's central, it's a lot less time to get to away games. But I'd say it was good at Carlisle because we had our own team minibus, so we could all go together and we didn't have to mess around with cars or having to fit chairs in cars or anything like that. So
that's a good perspective in terms of that. But obviously, you'd have seen this one during the summer with, what did the league do? You know, especially in the Division 3, obviously with shake up with teams dropping out the league higher up the pyramid. Obviously, with them trying to their best ability, trying to make it very much regionalised to a certain extent, but obviously being northwest, northeast, southeast, and southwest. What was your take on what was originally going to be the league format from the Division 3 perspective?
The league this year?
Yes.
I mean, it's slightly easier for us because it's mainly just teams based on the west side, because we no longer have to travel to Thames Valley or Aylesbury. I think the only team on the east side we have to travel to is Hampshire, which is a bit of a pain. But I mean, it's mainly just southwest teams now, so I think it's a lot easier. Although I am gutted about not playing Aces because it means I won't be able to visit Stoke Mandeville Stadium again, which is where that stadium brought back a lot of memories for me because it's where I had my first junior tournament playing for Scotland, and I haven't been back there since 2014, since the event. So
Could always move and play for a team in the southeast.
Nah, I'm all right with Worcester. I think I'd get some decent minutes this season anyway, so I'm looking forward to it.
And then from a perspective, say a team perspective now, Dylan, what is, say, this is maybe only your perspective now, what do you think the overall goal is of the club?
For Worcester Wolves?
Yes.
Well, this season it's very different. Last season we had quite a lot of players, sometimes too much to fit into one team. And a lot of those players have left, obviously, with the programme moving. One of our players has gone over to transfer to university in Alabama. And one of our players has gone to play for TCAT Warriors. He's returned to TCAT Warriors. So we've only got about 10 players this season, with three of them being AB. So, I think this season we've just got to see how it goes and hopefully finish within the top 3, I'd say. But to be honest, I don't really know because I'm not a coach and I haven't really spoke to the coaches through the off season to see what they want to do. But I mean, we've got a good young coach this year, Oliver Griffith-Salter, is coming to coach our team while he's playing for Coventry, and obviously the assistant coach is Malcolm McMullen, who was one of our coaches last year. So we've got a bit of continuity with that. Tom Horrocks was our head coach last season, and he's put down the coaching board and he's going to get back on the court. So hopefully he will be a strong link for our team. Trying to think what else. Yes, I think we're very optimistic. This is going to be a very different because we've lost quite a lot of players. But I just think if we just see how it goes and try and not get too stressed about things, we should be all right.
So what was Tom's excuse for not playing last year? Because I've probably played against him. Say once when he was at Worcester, the first season Worcester was in the league, and then I'm going to say 1 or 2 years when he's up at Tees.
Yeah, the reason Tom didn't play last year was, well, one of the reasons was because he was in his 3rd year, and it was very stressful. Plus, also his degree was in sports coaching, so he wanted to do as much coaching as possible in order to back up his degree, sort of. And plus, he'd already tried coaching and playing at the same time, and he felt that it was too difficult to manage. So he just played for the university team last year, but this season he's going to get back on court and play for the team. Hopefully, be one of our main players.
And then kind of, I think off the top of my head, where are kind of some of the locations that you'll get to play this coming season off the top of your head?
I've got the league structure on my phone here. I'll just quickly load it up. There's quite a few new teams. Well, not a few, but there's a couple of new teams here. So, right, I've got it. We play Plymouth, which is probably going to be the furthest journey. Plymouth, Swansea, Hampshire, Coventry, Gloucester and Warwickshire.
It's not too bad then. A lot close to home then.
Yeah, Warwickshire and Gloucester will be quite close to get to. So a lot, quite a bit of less travelling compared to last season. So
you get a little jolly there in the. Is that the Midlands then?
No, that's the Division 3 Southwest.
That's not too bad. It's a bit easier than the North then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, actually looking at the league now, I think our biggest challenge will be Plymouth. And I think with the rest of the teams, because Warwickshire won the league last season, and so their Division 3 team this season is new. Mm-hmm. So I think Plymouth will be our toughest challenge, but the rest of them will be fairly even.
It's a difficult one in terms of would it be in that? Well, you could say the basement of the league structure to some extent, but obviously you've got Division 4 underneath. Within terms of who's going to be playing for who, it's probably the similar essence with us in the north, but you don't know how teams are going to say structure their team dynamics all the way through a club, because you could say, well, okay, that is their I think from what you've said, Warwickshire, that would be their third team. I think it'd be the same with us. We've got T's third team, Carlisle's third team. Who else is in there? Leeds' second team. So you can never quite tell. It might be a number, but you don't know what teams are going to do to, say, manipulate the, how would I put it?
League structure.
Not the league structure, but as in the player to be able to make their squad strong, as opposed to loading one team over another.
Yeah. But I mean, whenever a team moves up from Division 3, it's sort of good in a way, because it allows that team to potentially put in another team for Division 3 for the following year if they've got enough players. I know that when I was at Carlisle, if their second team won Division 3 when I was at Carlisle and they put a new team in Division 3, it would have, although we would have been an inexperienced team, and we probably would have got, we wouldn't, I don't think our third team at the time would have done very well in Division 3, but it would have been, a lot more playing time and a lot more experience rather than playing Division 4, which was only 3 weekends a year. So.
Well, it's a difficult one, but then on the flip side of that, with Division 3, you can't get relegated, so it is a win-win to a certain extent, because you're going to get that player development, and there is no comeback in terms of if you play poor. Well, I won't say play poorly, but if you don't get your wins, you're going to get relegated. So from that aspect, I think it's a good system. However, and this is probably closer to home with me and teams in our area, because Cheshire Phoenix got a wheelchair basketball team as well. They won every game last year in Division 4, but are still not coming up to Division 3, which I think is a bit... I don't know. You hear these excuses that, we don't have enough disabled players. It's too far to travel. It's like, well, between Division 4, and Division 3, okay, there might be a little bit more travelling, but compared to, say, Division 1 and 2, it's not.
It's not major.
But you thought if you've won every game, you would want to challenge yourself by playing better teams.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think, for example, Carlisle have a very strong chance of winning Division 1 this year. So, I mean, I know I've spoken to a few of the players and coaching staff there. I mean, they're if they were to win Division 1, I think that they're a little bit nervous about the travelling in Prem. But, like, obviously, if you love basketball and if you want to develop, it's worth travelling from all the way down to London or, to Oldham or wherever. It's totally worth it.
But it's not too bad. It's only 1 week. Well,
yeah, 1 week.
What we got was Prem is 10 team. That's only 5 weekends of the year, so it's not. Yeah. It's not that big deal in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and plus, if it's far down south, I mean, if players have the money and the expense, like they could have the game and then stay overnight and have a good social night after the game or whatever. So you get that benefit as well. So,
well, I think that's the component with a lot of things. Or I think with our club, I use the example. They'll look to get a double header, be it in the past we've played Carlisle on a Saturday, gone to Scotland on the Sunday, or gone to play Tees on the Saturday, then gone up to Scotland. So I think it very much varies. So I think it's trying to use the logistic essence of things, of not getting 2 games out of the way at once, but being able to, like you say, it's that team bonding. You are away from, well, not your family, but you are in that bubble of a team environment, and you can get to know the person a little bit better than, say, just going to the game one day and coming back home that after the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of Worcester's teams are quite close. So I don't think... I mean, we might do it for Plymouth, but I think that'll be the only game that we consider staying overnight for anyway. So.
Well, it's fair enough. Well, it's a long way, isn't it, Plymouth? Yeah. It's
3 hours away. So.
But in terms of, say, when we look at the end of the season now, and normally playoffs and a lot of the championships are at Worcester, do you think with them now moving away and going to be based in Sheffield, that maybe the league will look to maybe move the stuff back up north? Or do you think they'll split it?
I mean, the league... Sorry, could you sort of repeat the question again?
Do you think, with the national team moving away up to Sheffield, do you think it'll have an impact on the national finals and things like that of that nature, what have predominantly been at Worcester for the last, say, 3-4 years now? Yeah. Do you think the league will look to spread it out a little bit, maybe have a championship up in Sheffield and maybe some championship, like the old days towards the end? Yeah. The juniors was very much at Stoke Mandeville, and then there was stuff in Worcester.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to predominantly move a lot of the stuff to Sheffield. Like, I know playoffs is supposedly in Sheffield this year, but I think because Worcester has 3 courts, it's ideal for the junior championships with the under-15s and 9. So I think that's staying at Worcester. I think they're going to keep Continental Clash as an annual thing at Worcester. So then that's once a year. And then I think Women's League and that, I don't know about Women's League. It might stay at Nottingham, but because Nottingham and Sheffield are quite close together. Well, no, actually, I think Women's League will stay at Nottingham because I think Wildcat Arena has 3 courts. So I think the majority of the stuff is going to get moved to Sheffield, but that's just the way things go. Obviously they're investing a lot more money into the GB program now for Tokyo. And a lot of the players that don't have families abroad are coming back. So it's a shame they couldn't do that at Worcester, but it's the way things go.
Well, I think the teams in the north won't be too fussed with it going to Sheffield. Probably be quite relieved. If you said the northwest teams, probably happy. It'd be even more happy if it was Manchester because it's that much closer. But Sheffield's not coming from the west side of the country. It's still not. From a travel perspective, it's okay journey, but it's still, what was it? It's about 60 miles away from here, I think, roughly. Yeah. But obviously, it's not. Once you get to the other side of Manchester, it's not motorway, so it's very much windy roads. But it is what it is.
I think it's always going to be difficult trying to select a proper central location, because when you look at it from the home country's point of view, obviously you might feel the same way because you're from Wales. I do think BWB need to do a bit more to I feel that they need to be more involved with the home countries, say Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and obviously cancelling Celtic Cup because of funding. I think it's a step in the total wrong direction. But I do think that even though they've moved the programme north, which will be certainly easier for those travelling from the home countries, I do think they still need to do a lot more.
Do you think it's probably, in the long run, maybe a little naive then?
For them to move the programme to Sheffield?
No, as in reducing the funding for their home nations.
I mean, I don't know, maybe it was... maybe they genuinely needed the funding, which probably is the case, but I do think despite the majority of strong junior teams coming from England, I do think Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, they were on the cusp of becoming, a strong team. Like the under-23 teams at Celtic Cup, they were very, very strong. Scotland won Celtic Cup, I think it was 3-4 years in a row. And then obviously Wales won it 1 year as well. And, Northern Ireland are constantly evolving and getting better. When you look at Nice, they were a Prem team and now they're in Division 1. You look at the strong players from James McSorley and Katie Morrow. And then even the under-15s Northern Ireland Junior League team a couple of years ago, they were within the top 3 teams at the junior championships, so they were getting really well. So I wouldn't say naive is the right word. I just think it's a massive shame that they've cancelled Celtic Cup, because it disappointed a lot of the players, and obviously my Scotland coach Tina Gordon, the creator of the Celtic Cup, who first brought forward the idea to BWB, I think she's disappointed by it as well. But I mean, hopefully it'll come back soon. Hang on a second. I'm in the middle of something. I do think it's a massive shame that Celtic Cup has been cancelled. Yeah.
But then, Dylan, do you think it's putting a glass ceiling on the Celtic nations by doing that? Obviously, if you haven't got the aspirations of being able to represent your country at under-23s, and you've only got the under-15s and the under-19s to aspire to, do you kind of think that it's quite a difficult question to ask, but in terms of, say, if you, in some cases, and for a majority of the players, that probably won't make it, so say, to be a GB junior or especially a GB senior, that is kind of their, how would I put this now? Kind of something they can look back on later in life and be very proud about that. Do you think it's kind of...
I mean, I think a lot, regardless whether someone makes GB, if they represent the country, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, I do think they'll look back and be proud on that. But I do think the cancellation of Celtic Cup has put more of a glass ceiling on the home nations. I do think there was a glass ceiling on there before, because I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's just there was always this vibe that the people from the home nations never really got properly seen by higher officials in BWB. Like, for example, with the RPC, as far as I'm aware, there's no RPC structure in Wales or Northern Ireland, and the Scotland RPC was sort of independently arranged. But if you want to go to the proper organised BWB officials, BWB official RPCs, yeah, I think the north one is in Oldham, the central one is in Coventry, and the GB one was in Worcester, and the south one was I can't remember where it was. It was either in London, somewhere in London, or Thorpe Mandeville. So. I know one player from Mid Wales that travelled to Coventry to attend regularly, and that was the same for the HPC as well. But there's no HPC RPC set up really at all in the home nations, which is a real shame.
But it's a quite difficult one in terms of, I don't know if you from memory would have the same problem in Scotland as you do in Wales. There's definitely if they put it, say, in Cardiff, there would be, to some extent, resentment up here in the north because, okay, why are you putting it down there if there's one in Worcester? And it's probably a difficult one because Manchester's and that kind of area is not that far away for us to travel. So you could probably say it's that one of a politics to a certain extent, but then you're never going to please everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if they put it in Manchester or Oldham, it's not far for North Wales. People from North Wales to travel there. Likewise, if they put it in Worcester, I mean, Cardiff is quite far from Worcester to be. Well, an hour and a half, I think. So I suppose it's not that bad. But like in regards to Scotland, even if they put it in, say, Newcastle or somewhere, that'd be a lot easier. But, certainly from the guys coming from the east, from Edinburgh way, if they put it in Newcastle. But yeah, like you say, it's hard to please everyone. But hopefully, I just wish now and again maybe a BWB official would like say, I don't know, I can't really like say like I don't know, Pete Finbo or Simon Fisher or someone like that. If they were to travel up, maybe once every couple of months to Wales or Scotland or Northern Ireland. If they'd done that, then it would be a step in the right direction. But I don't know. It's just with the cancellation of Celtic Cup, it's really put a downer on how things are going in the home nations just now. So.
I think in terms of, say, the coaches coming in, I think one would have been, when I've seen them both in the same room, would have been when we played Carlisle late towards last season. And obviously you had Nate Patterson. Who else would have been? Jack Barlow from our side.
Yeah.
Who else was it? David Ion. Obviously, we're very much in the running for the. Let's see if I get this right. The under-23 national side. So obviously they're gonna go to that game because they're all in one location at one time to make it easier to be able to be seen, and it's a game scenario situation. So I think that would be maybe their. You could say the reason behind it, as opposed to maybe going to a training session where you'd have to go to multiple locations.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from there. Like, but like you say, like players like Nat and David, they've done extremely well to get onto the GB pathway. When you look at the geographical locations of the players that are on that team, there's not very many from the far north compared to like from the likes that are from Sheffield. There's quite a few Sheffield players on there. There's quite a few players from Oldham that were on there. A couple of players from Coventry. So a lot of these areas that are getting the attention are producing results. Obviously, with Coventry players making the squads and the RPC, HPCs being in Coventry, I just think if they'd done that maybe further north or in areas that weren't getting as much attention, if they sort of spread it out as best they could, I think the same results would occur. If you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. But you could say probably more recently and say over, what would it be, the last 5 years, the North East has definitely got a stake and a claim to say, well, okay, what about us? Because obviously with the rise of Tees Valley Titans,
oh yeah, definitely
making their way up from, we were down in Division 3 with them. What would it be, about 3-4 years ago, and obviously they're a Premiership team in this upcoming season. So you could say, well, why not us? That the development of players is obviously there.
Yeah,
they've obviously got the likes of the Paralympic
John Hall
players coming back and playing for them and things like that. So you could say, there is aspirations to develop players to that standard.
Yeah, definitely.
Why do they not maybe aid that development and make the depth a little bit more easy? And obviously they can then thus, and Scotland included, have a stake and claim to an RPC and maybe upwards of HPC in the long run. But that is what it is with sport. Everything is kind of revolves around politics and money to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, what Lee Fawcett has done with Tees Valley is nothing short of amazing. To get from Div 4 to the Premier League within, the space of 5 years, it's unbelievable what they've done. And even with the likes of Carlisle as well, about 3 years ago, Carlisle were getting hammered in Div 1, and then they got a demotion to Div 2. Absolutely scored it coming up the ranks, and they've just been unlucky when it comes to Premier League spaces. I think because when TCAP were in the North League, they were just unlucky against them, and then Tees Valley stepped it up the next season, obviously bringing in Matt Byrne, John Hall. Who else did they bring in? I think it was just Matt Byrne and John Hall that season, and then obviously with the likes of Aaron Hurst and Liam Fawcett on top of that, they were. It's just the way things go, and but I think, like you say, with the likes of Carlisle and Tees Valley rising up the ranks, there's definitely a claim for them to be a more far north than HPC or RPC, like you said.
And we come back to you, Dylan, now. What do you see kind of going forward and your aspirations for, say, I don't know, in the next 5 to 10 years?
Myself in the next 5 to 10 years, kind of a difficult one to answer. Well, I mean, I think just progress, keep progressing with the IWBF, writing, making sure the quality of my articles are good, and hopefully just get my name up there and get my name recognised. I've been writing these articles for a couple of months, and obviously with these, big name players that I've been put into contact with, but that's also encouraged people that are big name players to send me friend requests, and here are these Paralympians sending me friend requests, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? The next 5 to 10 years, hopefully I see myself working for IWBF. I don't know exactly where my geographical location will be. I think I'd more than be happy to work with teams from all over the world, Germany, America, Canada, and go over there and help them the best I can. But I think I don't know if I'm ready to live abroad. So hopefully I'll be based somewhere in the UK, fairly close to where the GB program is centralised. But maybe just be the IWBF affiliate for Britain, or the IWBF reporter for Britain. But not just focus on GB things, focus on other teams as well. And just hopefully build connections and build networks. But I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit anxious about it because right now, obviously the program, the GB program moving from Worcester, it has affected me a bit. I don't know what the basketball will be like there when I go back, and it's made me quite sad. But hopefully, with this connection that I've made with IWBF, I can just progress further in the world of wheelchair basketball, and hopefully good things will come. I don't know exactly what they are yet, but I've just got to be optimistic.
But when you say, Dylan, you are a bit shocked that people obviously friend requesting you as Paralympians.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't see it that way, because if you flip it on the other way, you are kind of opening, how would I put this? You are kind of their shop window in terms of publicity.
Yes, I get that. But see, I still don't see myself as Dylan Cummings, the IWBF reporter. I just see myself as Dylan Cummings, I don't know, an average basketball player. You know what I mean? It's quite mad that I'm in a way people's key to get publicity. Like you said, it still hasn't sunk in yet, but hopefully it'll just progress and I'll be able to travel the world with the opportunities that I've been fortunate enough to be given.
But like you say, Dylan, it's you could probably term it maybe, how would I put it? Not putting those people on a pedestal, so to speak, and kind of saying it like using your own words here now, using as networking, because it's because of that job you were able to engage with, say, how would I put it? Inspirational individuals, very good at what they do, and it's probably
world-class Paralympians.
And probably from the flip side of me being an athlete and kind of been from a basketball perspective now, I've been in their shoes. We are just human beings. It's probably the talent is there. I won't deny that, but we are good at what we do. You could probably say, if I put it from my perspective, you are good at what you do from a journalistic perspective.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and very keen and willing to start at the bottom from doing it from a voluntary perspective.
Yeah.
You want to get your skill and your craft. So that is to be commended. Obviously, it's probably you could associate that to a certain extent with a sporting background because you started at the bottom. If you're willing to work your way up, it's virtually in certain words it's very much similar. So they probably use you networking wise to obviously get their name out there, because with any Paralympic sport, if you put it on par with an able-bodied athlete, it's that much harder to do it. So if they can get their name out there, be it from a brand perspective, be it even if they're not even got a professional contract, it gets them out. Get them out there and about, that teams know about them. Oh, this person is this classification. They're good at this, and it does helps grow their portfolio.
Yeah, and I think this has given me a new, I don't know, I'd say life goals to achieve. Because when I was younger, I was 16 and I was very, very naive. Like when I first joined basketball, I thought it was absolutely amazing, and it still is amazing. And it's the best thing in the world. I don't know what I would do if I didn't find this sport, but I think I used to beat myself up quite a lot because of I used to always aspire to be playing on GB and being this absolute world-class player and all. I was very naive, and obviously having cerebral palsy is quite, I'd say, in the grand scheme of things, it's quite a difficult. It's wheelchair basketball is not. I don't know how to say this. If you have cerebral palsy and you play wheelchair basketball, it's kind of. I'd say it's kind of more. It's a.
You probably
I can't really explain it, but do you know what I mean? Like not many people with cerebral palsy are in these GB elite pathways. I think there's one in the women's program, and there used to be a couple in the junior program, but there's not anymore.
Well, to some extent, from I would say from a disability perspective, now you are probably more affected at times by your impairment, to say if we use an amputee, because that's not going to bother me most of the time. Okay, that impairment's there, but it's whereas with you could have a spasm at any given moment. That could affect you from one day to the next. You could be more, we'll use the term disabled, from what, and be more impaired from one day to the next. Whereas if you're an amputee, that's not going to change.
I thought, and like a lot of people that aren't aware of like the different types of disability, they might look at you and go, "Oh bloody hell, he's missing a leg." They might look at me and I was like, "You're not missing a leg. What are you complaining about?" But then, like, in the grand scheme of things, like are you only missing one leg?
Yeah, well, I've got the leg, and then I've got what's wrong with me? Scoliosis of the spine, but that wouldn't affect my classification. And I've got a floating hip, so I don't have the development of one of my glute muscles. So I'm, how would I put this now? Lower on one side, so that it doesn't affect my balance, so to speak. But obviously tilting wise, from a, what would it be? tactical perspective, obviously I'm not as gosh, it's difficult to explain that one. Able to do it, say, like the likes of Patrick as a double amputee.
Yeah.
He's symmetrical and thus balanced both sides. I know single amps can do it, but I am not as great at tilting that side as opposed to my dominant side.
Yeah, but so your disability only really affects you in one limb, more or less, whereas mine, I've got quadriplegic cerebral palsy. I'm affected in all four limbs, so it affects my hands and everything like that. But, you know, like, even though I might not achieve the level of GB on court, you know, I've still represented Scotland, which is, I hold it near and dear to my heart. Scotland is, you know, my country. So, you know, I must be doing all right if I'm playing for Scotland. So I must be doing something right anyway. But the opportunity I've been given with IWBF, it will help me to succeed off court, rather than on court. So it still gives me an opportunity to go and do all these things off court, as opposed to on court. So,
well, I'd say you've reflected on. Obviously, you've been very much. How would I term this now? I won't say you were naive, because you were using the word naive in terms of when you were younger. It's not a bad thing to have that aspiration to want to get to the highest level in sport, be it Paralympics, Olympics, whatever the heights your sport can take you to have as a youngster, because obviously everybody's got goals. It's no point giving yourself, as we spoke about earlier in the episode, having that glass ceiling. It's no point giving yourself that one and saying, well, this is as high as I'm going to get, because it's kind of a negative way of looking at things. But whereas I think you've reflected upon it and say, well, okay, the sport's not going to get me to the heights that I wanted to. However, I'm going to use it as a tool in a different way, be it the likes of education, and now with that voluntary role within IWBF, and kind of using the sport as the what's the word I want? I can't think of the actual word. Tool to be able to kind of a catalyst to be able to succeed in life, and be it. I think a lot of, and I've spoken to this in certain episodes. I think a lot of athletes do focus predominantly on their sporting thing and do not have a backup. I think, whereas Dylan, I think you're quite switched on. You've kind of got to the realization, okay, this goal I had was a dream, but it is maybe not attainable, to let me use it as kind of a stepping stone, as you said, and you've mentioned, to be able to kind of succeed in a different venture, and thus being, okay, you're doing it from a journalistic perspective. You want to stay within the sport. So I think it's commendable on that part. You're using the sport to give you a one-up on somebody, a kind of a what?
Yeah, I definitely
to progress.
Yeah, sort of a different way of achieving to get to the elite level, but just off court. But it just goes. I just thought about this. It goes back to the question you said earlier about me wanting to play in a higher division. But about what I've just said about on court and off court stuff, I'd rather play 40 minutes in Div 3 than potentially play 10 minutes in Div 1 or say why. Like, for me, just obviously I want my team to succeed because it's a team sport, and what's best for the team always comes first. But for me, just it's not about playing for the best club or the best team or the best division. It's just about getting good minutes and, you know, being a valuable asset towards teammates, and vice versa.
Well, that's a fair reflection on that, in terms of you want to. You could say it in another word, it's doing it for the love of the sport, as opposed to chasing trophies, so to speak.
Yeah. That's what it's about, yeah.
So last question, Dylan, before we wrap up the episode. If you had to summarize your episode into one sentence for people to take away, what would that be?
Be optimistic and don't give up.
I think that's some good words there, Dylan. So once again, Dylan, thanks for coming on the Mindset Game podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. And before I forget, I would really appreciate it if you would be so kind as to leave a short written review, as it helps to get the podcast more notoriety and it would be more visible in future to others, and thus helping more people, which my guests and I are all about. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Mindset Game podcast.